Welcome to the 2025 Summer Religious Evangelization Exhibit here at All Saints Parish. We have 3 summer festivals, and this is the first of the exhibits, and we are at the St. John campus, and I'm going to give a guide through the exhibit for those of you who can't be here. Also, this is a great tool for all of our individuals who volunteer to work hospitality and welcoming and greeting, and as we like to say, non-threatening evangelization, because that's why we have these religious exhibits. This is our 10th exhibit, and they've been powerful. Shroud of Turin, nativity scenes, Last Supper, the 14 stations of the Eucharist, Carlos Acutis's miracles of the Eucharist. So every year, been a different exhibit. So this year we're focusing on 250 years of America and the religious foundations of America, biblical aspects of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the faith of our founding fathers, and the inspiration of so many women that helped found America. We have the relics of over the 11 canonized saints of America. There's a part about Pope Leo XIV, the first American Pope. We have stuff about World War I, World War II, the Spanish-American War, the Knights of Columbus, and biblical passages that are on the national monuments. And then the whole exhibit is also just covered in memorabilia that is 50 years old from the last time we celebrated a big celebration here in America in 1976, which just happened to be the year that I was born. So a lot of the memorabilia that you see is actually from a collection that I've put together over the years. So the question that I think I'm going to be asking throughout the exhibit is that whoever tells our history will create our future and our destiny. Whoever tells our history will create our future and our destiny. And it is true that those who are telling the history of the United States of America have rewritten it void of religion, void of faith. And that's just not true. We as Americans are a people of faith. We are a people of religion. We are a people of devotion. And when we forget our history, when we don't tell our history, it does affect our present, our future, and our destiny. So I want to use this exhibit as a way to encourage us to rediscover maybe our spiritual past, our religious past, and that it's a really beautiful thing. So for those of you working as guides, our intro is going to be an invitation for people to do that, to pause before they go in and reflect upon our religious, biblical foundations of our beautiful country. So we'll make our way into the exhibit. I'll point out right here, we have so many contributors every year. I just talked to a lot of people, and the Holy Spirit points a lot of people out, but we have exact replicas of the national monuments in the Washington, D.C., and they're all created by Alex Langdon. The Knights of Columbus and Bright Knights of Columbus have some items on display here. Jeff Mersman's sons donated a tennis racket. Eric Barrow has amazing World War I and World War II items. Joe Younger donated some White Sox baseball cards for Pope Leo XIV. And then I was so blessed to get in contact with many of the national shrines for some of our American saints, because I didn't have statues or relics for all of the saints, and now I do. So I'm really excited about that. So the Shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs, which would be St. Carrie Tecawitha and St. Isaac Yogues, the Shrine of St. Marie Ann Cope, Catherine Drexel, and Rose Deschamps. And then, of course, the staff and the parishioners of All Saints and of St. Teresa, St. Lawrence, St. Mary's just make this all possible. I take things from all over the county to make everything happen. And then I need to just give a shout out to my mom and dad for having a baby in 1976. So we'll start off with that right here. So the first thing that you'll see on display is actually my baby blanket from 1976. That's right, y'all. I was born in 76. So this is my baby blanket. So thank you, Terry and Dwayne, for giving me life. So this part of the exhibit goes through and talks about the signers of the Declaration of Independence and a lot of their statements of faith. It is something that we just never really delve into, is the faith of the signers. There were 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. 26 were Anglicans, 13 Congregationalists, 12 were Presbyterians, 2 Quakers, 2 Unitarians, and 1 Roman Catholic. But they all claimed to be Christian. They all claimed to have religious faith. John Winterspoon, who was an ordained minister who was one of the signers, he educated over 1/3 of the members of the Declaration of Independence. But George Washington, who clearly everyone looks at as being a founder, like he said, out of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable. Like, I just think it's powerful. Like, are we teaching our young people that religion and morality are indispensable? Like, are we teaching our young people that they're indispensable to political prosperity? That if you want to have a prosperous nation, you need religion and morality. So there's other quotes on here. Thomas Jefferson. This stack of 15 Bibles is here because of Roger Sherman, who is one of the signers, who every year would read the entirety of the Bible, make notes in it, and give it to one of his children. He had 15 kids, so I have 15 Bibles here in honor of Roger Sherman and his children. Charles Thompson, one of the signers, who would translate the Bible from English into Greek as a hobby. This gentleman down here, Francis Hopkins, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, is also the publisher of a Christian hymnal and would write Christian hymns. So once again, just trying to emphasize the fact that our founding fathers were deeply biblical and religious men. I think it's important for us to remember there. Andrew Jackson said the Bible is the rock on which the Republic rests. So these are just pictures of some of the signers that often don't get a lot of glory. We talk about Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams, sometimes George Washington. John Adams, however, a very religious man. The general principles on which the fathers achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity, right? Without religion, this world would be something not fit to be mentioned in polite company. I mean hell, right? Because back in those days, saying the word hell was going to be scandalous. So this section here is focusing on the founding fathers. My grandmother, Marilyn Meyer, this was one of the 1976 artifacts. This is famous women of the American Revolution. And so I have this listed as influential women. And I think it is awesome to talk about the women who made the revolution possible as well. And so some of these are a lot more famous. People you would think of like Betsy Ross, Martha Washington, Abigail Adams, and there's a little write-up about all of them. But there's also other really powerful ones. Sybil Liddington, who was the young girl who rode multiple miles in horseback, 25 miles in horseback to get her dad to get his regiment to come to war. Molly Pitcher and Penelope Barker. So trying to emphasize great women who did great things for the country as well. So this is the definitive peace treaty between Great Britain and the United States of America, signed by Hartley from Great Britain, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and John Jay. This is the official document that severs Great Britain from the United States of America. And then this shows the first words of this document in the name of the most holy and undivided Trinity. So once again, our founding fathers were not afraid of religion. They were not afraid of God. They did not believe that there needed to be this complete separation, which is not actually a part of the core beliefs of who we were. This actually speaks a little bit about how in the 13 original states, 9 of them required you to be a Bible-believing Christian just to serve in government. All of the 13 original states required a declaration of faith for those in public office. So just that whole understanding of that, like, there was a belief that for you to be a politician, you needed to be an upright, religious, Bible-believing person. Like, what would our world look like if that was the case today? This, of course, is the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. And this spells out the 4 times that God is clearly mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. It's really kind of neat. I mean, sadly, a lot of children can't read cursive anymore, but I took the time to sit down the other day and just to read through it in cursive, to read the original writing was actually really powerful. But we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator, once again making reference to God. The separation and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God, once again, where does the natural law come from? It comes from God. Appealing to the supreme judge of the world, and then reliance upon the protection of divine providence. So once again, these are men of faith. They have faith, and their faith is what helped us create the republic that we have. So this is the Constitution, a smaller version. And these are the two Catholics that signed the Constitution. Different than who we're going to talk about in a second. But one of them is a relative. Daniel Carroll is a relative of Charles Carroll. And then Thomas Fitzsimmons. These were the two that signed the Constitution. Now, this section here is dedicated to Charles Carroll. He's the only American signer of the Declaration of Independence. He actually is a native born. He was born in Maryland in 1737. He was an only child. His parents then sent him back to Europe because we didn't have a lot of universities at the time. They wanted to send him to a Catholic university, and there wasn't a Catholic university at the time. So they sent him to a Catholic Jesuit university back in England and in France. He returned in 1765 and then began to be involved in politics and was ultimately on the Continental Congress. He's a signer of the Declaration of Independence, and he fought for religious minorities. Why? He was a Catholic. I think this is really, really important, that we have to remember that being a Catholic in the early days of our country was, you were a minority. You were possibly persecuted, very much so. And so he fought very much so for religious freedom in the United States of America. And he was a wealthy man, so he actually financially supported the war effort, helped establish the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. He was the oldest living signer of the Declaration of Independence, the oldest living signer of the Declaration of Independence. And he says here, I have lived to my 96th year, but what I now look back on with the greatest satisfaction to myself is that I have practiced the duties of my religion. So not the fact that he, had lived a long life, not the fact that he had signed the Declaration of Independence, but that he had lived a good religious life. These are pictures from the chapel that he attached to his house. So he had so many priests that would visit him that he built a beautiful chapel. There's the tabernacle. There's the painting of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. This is the shrine here. And then this is a plaque that is in there in honor of him being the oldest surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence that they put up in the chapel. This was made for classrooms in 1976. So if you have some young children, but this would have probably hung up in a lot of classrooms across the United States of America. It has all the presidents listed on here, of course, going all the way to Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. And then it has facts all about the United States of America going all the way around, has all the wars that we have been involved in, but just like a great 1976 boasting of great things in America. So powerful. And there is Indiana right there. This here is a display of it's really amazing what our country did 50 years ago to celebrate our 200th anniversary. So these are actually towels. My mom would have called these dish towels or glass towels. But these were towels that they both have calendars on them, and then different arrays of plates here. And it's really interesting just looking through all of these things about how, clearly, and many of us, and some of you who are watching might be them, but there clearly was a collector's spirit following the Depression and World War I, World War II. People loved collecting things. And so this is, inside of here is the spirit of 76 in your home. And so this is all about how these plates, which only cost you $10 a plate, and how much money they will be worth once you get the whole set. And so the incentives, they have the First Lady actually there at the plant where these are being made. And you probably can't even get them to sell now at a rummage sale. But nonetheless, they're awesome in my mind. So lots of commemorative plates here. And you'll see the same images again and again. The Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, the North Church, Mount Vernon. More bicentennial plates from 50 years ago. These are all pewter and kind of have a same theme, so I put all these here together. Here is a plastic outdoor flag from 1976, and we continue down here. This is actually a really interesting set of collector's plate. It tells the history of the Revolution through plates. So there's 7 of them, and these plates were actually made in France, and they're actually not in English, but they were made for Americans to celebrate the American Revolution. And you better believe it, that every plate has its own certificate of authenticity. So we are just, we got these right here. So that's exciting. Okay, we're going to shift now to looking at the 11 canonized saints of the United States of America. So when we talk about our Catholic faith being lived out, we are so blessed that as Catholics, we have 11 heroes. And when we think about what Roman Catholic saints are, they really are called to be our intercessors of the great things that God is calling us to do, which is heroic virtue, which is heroic charity. And so these are arranged here from left to right, beginning with the earliest of saints. So St. Isaac Jogues and St. Kateri Tekakwitha, both who are in northern New York. Some of them refer to them as the Canadian martyrs. We refer to them as the American martyrs. So for all of these, the saints of the United States of America, there is a statue, but there's also a relic. And so we're going to be encouraging all of our visitors to take their rosary and touch it to the different relics that we have on display. There's only 2 of them we don't have relics for. St. Isaac Jogues was actually, after when he was martyred by the Indians, he was actually thrown into a river. And so they do not have first-class relics for him. And then I don't have a relic of Junipero. But St. Isaac Jogues, St. Kateri Tekakwitha, Junipero Serra, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, St. Rose Deshawn, John Newman, Francis Xavier Cabrini, Theodore Guerin, Damien of Malachi, Mariana Cope, and then Catherine Drexel. And so this is the opportunity. There are write-ups on all of these. So when you come to the exhibit, this is going to ask, and for those of you who are watching this to be a guide, I am going to ask you to try to have people focus on reading about the saint. There also are then famous quotes. And so I chose quotes. A lot of them, I try to have them focus on the Eucharist to show the devotion to the Eucharist in all of these American saints. And then I have a sign as well for those who are currently blessed and then those who are venerable in the United States of America. So I think this is going to be a great way. Our people very accustomed to relics. This section here describes our first American Pope, Pope Leo XIV, and just trying to help people realize just really how powerful this is, that we have an American Pope. So this speaks about his early years. This is his home parish. Those are his 2 brothers. He graduated from Villanova. That's his picture from the school yearbook. This is him meeting John Paul II, Benedict, and Francis, of course, prior to him becoming Pope himself. And then this speaks about his different services throughout the world where he's lived, the languages that he speaks, and then just some of the kind of like the more human characteristics of him. He likes to play Wordle. He's a White Sox fan. He plays tennis. And then this is actually him in 1981 in a friend of mine's wedding. So a former employee of mine who graduated from Villanova had him as a classmate. And he was a groomsman in his wedding. So here he is in a little tuxedo and ascot. So this hung next to my grandparents' fireplace in Iron River, Michigan. And this is actually the package box. American Legend wall rug, because in the 70s we would put rugs on our walls because we were awesome. Okay, so we'll come through this section. So this section here focuses on the U.S. military, and one of our parishioners is an avid collector of all things American military. So these are language guide books. So like if you think about if you're a soldier going to a foreign country, you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, like how do I survive? These are guidebooks for soldiers, handbooks, rules. This is actually a flag from 1898 from the Spanish-American War. And this flew during the Spanish-American War. This is a helmet from World War I. This is a helmet from World War II. And then we have a gas mask from World War II as well. This is an original canteen with a little cork from the Spanish-American War as well. And then we have the whole field pouch setup for a soldier from World War II. I'm going to encourage our guides, if we have young children that come through, I think just allowing them to put this on would be a pretty powerful experience for them. This is part of a parachute from Normandy. And then this is a powerful, I put this here in the corner intentionally, almost like a little bit of a shrine. But these are the 5 Sullivan brothers. There were 5 brothers that all died in the same battle at the exact same time. And so all 5 of them are Catholic, and their family was pretty devout. They were altar boys. The priest was a good friend of the family, so much so that when they came to in person to deliver the 5 Purple Hearts to the mom and the dad, the priest actually came with the officer to let them know of the death of their son. Their 5 sons who all died that day. This is about the Knights of Columbus and their efforts to get the phrase "under God" put into the Declaration of Independence. And so this was back in 1954. And I'm going to encourage all of the guides, I want you to have the people coming through read Eisenhower's statement about reaffirming the transcendence of religious faith in America's heritage and future, and that America's religious faith is the spiritual weapon which is most powerful in our country. And then this, of course, is from the St. Teresa Council. These are items from the St. Lawrence Council. And so Pledge of Allegiance, amazing. This is a beer can collection. This is a whiskey bottle where George Washington's head this is on my grandpa's bar. And then this is the Christmas section. 5 different Christmas cards from 1976, Christmas plates from 1976. This section here, and you hear the beautiful music playing in the background as well. We're so blessed with the technology that we have here. So these are patriotic hymns, and we are blessed to have patriotic hymns that make a lot of reference to God. And so My Country 'Tis of Thee, the Star Spangled Banner, America the Beautiful, God Bless America, the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and God Bless the USA are all particularly hymns that make reference to God and God's relationship to our country and the inhabitants' desire to ask God to bless us. Once again, we're not a pagan nation. We're not an atheist nation. We are a nation that honors God and that God has blessed. And so this section here plays forth that. And you can't have a section on music without, a record from 50 years ago when we were celebrating the Patriotic Songs of the United States of America Bicentennial Edition. This is just a lot of really neat 50-year-old items, styrofoam beer koozies, paper cups, glasses, beer steins. This is just kind of some interesting. Everybody remembers the Mad magazine from 1976 or the National Geographic from 1976, 7-Up bottles. And what would be a display from 50 years ago if it wasn't complete with ashtrays? Because clearly back in 1976, that was really awesome. This section here focuses on our national motto, which is "In God We Trust." Once again, we are not a secular nation. We are not an atheist nation. We are not a nation that is afraid of God and that does not believe that God should be spoken in the public realm. And so this speaks specifically about the phrase "In God We Trust" being on our money and our coins. This is the Avon section. So ladies, if you would like to smell like Betsy Ross, you are very welcome to use some of this Avon 50-year-old. I think it's like wine. It gets better with the years. Or gentlemen, if you would like to use the Abe Lincoln aftershave, I have no doubt it still smells as good as Avon wanted it to. And then this section here is, in my mind, just so proud of this young man right here. This is Alex Langdon. So I had challenged him if he would be willing to make some of the national monuments to have biblical passages on them. And he said, I'll make all of them. So Alex designed all of these using a computer system. And then, so these are not from kits. These are actually original designs. And everything is accurate. Like the amount of columns that you see here on the Jefferson Memorial are exactly what is on the actual buildings. So he used a lot of Google Earth, studied the buildings, and then made the designs and made the exact replicas. But the reason why these are important is because in our nation's capital are these monuments, and they are covered in biblical passages. So most people don't know this, but at the very, very top of the Washington Monument is a triangle that says "Praise be God." So the highest thing in Washington, D.C. is "Praise be God." In the Lincoln Memorial, 2 biblical quotes. By the way, the Lincoln Memorial is also, of course, on the backside of the American penny. But Matthew 18 and Psalm 19 are found on the Jefferson Memorial. In Union Station, which during World War II, 200,000 people came through Union Station every single day. And there are 3 biblical passages in Union Station engraved into the walls that face the U.S. Capitol. John 8, Psalm 8, and Isaiah 35. In the Supreme Court building, on the end, the cap, there is a statue, a relief, and Moses is right there in the center. On the wooden doors, there's the 10 Commandments. And in the Great Hall of the Supreme Court, there are images of Moses as well. So once again, our understanding of justice, of equality, can only come from our understanding of what Christianity truly is. In the U.S. Capitol, there is a painting of the baptism of the Indiana Princess Pocahontas, Pilgrim leader William Brewster holding an open Bible to the New Testament. There's also a chapel in the House of Representatives, which has George Washington praying and an open Bible in it. And then the Library of Congress has a statue of both Moses and of St. Paul. So all of these are our national monuments, and they have within them very bold proclamations about our Christian faith. Something that we shouldn't be afraid of, but something that we should rejoice in. And then coming through this way, we have the last part of the exhibit. These are just tiny little artifacts from 50 years ago. But I want the people to see how much 50 years ago our country embraced American pride. So these are plastic-coated book covers. For those of you who remember when we had to cover your book, or you would get demerits if your books were not covered. So these are book covers that you can buy that have patriotic images on them. Like, are we going to be doing this in 2025? I don't know if we are, but I hope that we are. I mean, I really do. This is just a note card that you can write somebody, bookmarks. This is, First National Bank, when you would get your money every time. We want to celebrate America, so here's your money. This is from Howard Johnson. This is the children's menu, which I don't know if most children today could read everything that is in the children's menu, but I think it's also awesome for you to know that all of their meals range from $1.50 to $1.20. Awesome. These are decals, and for those of you who ever remember, the crazy things that our parents had around the house, don't worry, it all came from the decal set that they could buy for only 79 cents. This is a stock placemat for diners. This is an American Airlines ticket pouch. Delta Airlines celebrating 1776 on their napkins. So this is a calendar celebrating the bicentennial. Now we're celebrating 250 years later. So I think it's a beautiful exhibit. It turned out tremendous. I'm so thankful to all of our benefactors and all those who made this possible. And for those of you who are training, we just want people to rejoice in a country that doesn't reject religion, that doesn't persecute religion, but also is founded by religious people and will only thrive when religion and morality are at their best. And so we as Americans should not be afraid. We should be bold in our faith and to continue to live out our faith in the public realm. So that's the point of this year's festival, religious festival. And thanks for watching.